March 2nd, 2025. Ukrainian infantry from the 12th Azov Special Forces Brigade have launched an operation to clear Russian invaders from the village of Nelipivka in the Donetsk region. In the footage from helmet cameras, the difficulty and danger of close-range combat are clearly visible. Destroyed buildings, piles of rubble, and narrow passages transform the battlefield into a deadly maze. The Ukrainian forces move with high discipline and coordination, fully aware that even the smallest mistake could cost them their lives. Every ruined building is meticulously searched for enemy elements that may be hiding inside. Precautions are taken by throwing grenades before opening doors, and then rooms are cleared one by one. In close combat situations like this, preventing the enemy from getting any opportunity is crucial. Ukrainian soldiers immediately engage with armed force against Russian infantry who are disoriented or injured by explosions, ensuring that the threat is completely neutralized. The lifeless bodies of the Russian soldiers are thoroughly searched to determine if they contain any important documents or equipment for intelligence purposes. Ukrainian forces document all information and materials they find, sending them to intelligence units to analyze Russian tactics, locations, and possible movements. Close combat is one of the most dangerous and challenging stages of war. Soldiers fight at mere meters from the enemy in confined spaces, where even the slightest mistake can have fatal consequences. The limited escape routes make split-second decisions critical to survival. In such combat situations, soldiers must be highly vigilant both physically and mentally due to the very short reaction times. A moment of hesitation could give the enemy an advantage. Furthermore, every element in the surroundings could pose a threat. Doors, corners, windows, and piles of debris are all potential ambush points. In these high-stress battles, it is critical for soldiers to move in coordination. Disrupted communication between units or a wrong move could lead to failure in the operation. When the enemy's position is unclear, attacks could come from anywhere, and they must always be prepared. Therefore, close combat relies not only on firepower, but also on discipline, training, strategy, and psychological resilience. Achieving success in such a complex and risky environment requires great dedication and focus. March 2nd, 2025. The drones of the 91st Brigade are spotting Russian infantry in the Donetsk region and springing into action. The invading forces attempt to hide in abandoned and ruined buildings to survive, but this effort is in vain. Thanks to advanced reconnaissance systems, Ukrainian forces closely monitor every movement of the enemy and wait for the right moment to strike. Russian infantry in the region are hunted down one by one and neutralized. Faced with precision strikes, the invaders panic and scramble in search of an escape route. However, Ukraine's advanced drone technology provides no refuge for the enemy. These drones, with their high maneuverability, infiltrate even narrow spaces and successfully eliminate the hidden Russian forces. As a result of the operation, all Russian infantry and equipment in the area are completely destroyed. The Ukrainian forces secure the region with a swift and effective operation, preventing the invaders from posing a threat again at this location. March 3rd, 2025. The 110th Mechanized Brigade has launched an operation after detecting Russian forces along the Skudno-Burlatsky line in the Donetsk region. Despite the presence of numerous destroyed Russian vehicles in the area, Russian forces continue to infiltrate the region. However, thanks to Ukrainian intelligence and technological superiority, every move of the enemy is closely monitored. A Russian armored vehicle enters the area but is targeted and destroyed by Ukrainian forces shortly after. After the explosion, a Russian infantryman who managed to exit the vehicle tries to survive in a wounded state. However, Ukrainian forces ensure the complete neutralization of the enemy by launching another drone strike, ending the life of the Russian soldier. During the operation, another Russian armored vehicle is targeted and completely destroyed by Ukrainian forces. The crew inside is obliterated by the impact of the explosion, and Russian occupation forces in the area continue to weaken. However, Russian infantrymen attempt to survive by dispersing into nearby abandoned villages and open fields. Ukrainian forces, through reconnaissance activities, detect and neutralize these elements one by one. March 3rd, 2025. Ukrainian special forces have identified a critical target near the village of Kominar in the Kursk region, a Russian 2S-43 Malva 152mm self-propelled howitzer. This modern artillery system had been camouflaged by the Russian forces by hiding it among dry trees, but it is quickly spotted by Ukrainian reconnaissance teams. Ukrainian forces, carefully observing the area, not only detect the presence of the howitzer, but also identify nearby Russian infantry. Once the exact location is determined, a precise and coordinated attack plan is set into motion. Knowing the significant threat this artillery system poses on the battlefield, Ukrainian forces proceed with the operation with determination. At the moment of attack, the 2S-43 Malva is completely destroyed in a powerful explosion. However, the operation doesn't end there. Ukrainian forces continue to locate and neutralize Russian infantrymen hiding in the surrounding area. Through swift and accurate strikes, all Russian forces and equipment in the region are eliminated, and the operation is successfully completed. The 2S-43 Malva is a wheeled, self-propelled howitzer system developed by Russia, and it has been used in the conflict in Ukraine. Unlike traditional tracked howitzers, the Malva features an 8x8 wheeled chassis, providing greater mobility. The Russian army prefers this system due to its rapid deployment capabilities and lower operational costs. However, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine has exposed the weaknesses and limitations of such systems on the battlefield. The Malva has a 152mm gun capable of providing long-range fire support. However, it lacks the terrain advantages of tracked howitzers, limiting its mobility in challenging conditions. Ukrainian forces have achieved significant success in neutralizing such systems, particularly through the use of unmanned aerial vehicles and precision-guided munitions. While the Malva's wheeled design allows for greater maneuverability, it has become trapped in situations where Russian forces had to retreat. March 3, 2025. In the following images, the 3rd Spartan Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard identifies Russian infantry advancing on foot in the Donetsk region. After Ukrainian forces, supported by intelligence and reconnaissance teams, precisely determine the enemy's location, they initiate an operation. This time, snipers are at the center of the operation. Ukrainian forces launch precise and lethal shots from a long distance against Russian infantry. Trained snipers carefully select their targets and neutralize them one by one. Each shot is clear, swift, and fatal, with Russian forces suffering casualties before they can even take cover. This long-range and precise operation once again showcases Ukraine's tactical pressure on Russian forces and its professionalism on the battlefield. Faced with the presence of snipers, the enemy is left helpless, and Ukrainian forces successfully complete the operation, securing the region. Russia's traditional Soviet-style warfare strategies are highly vulnerable to snipers. The Russian army typically advances in large groups and along predictable routes, making it easy for Ukrainian snipers to target these formations. Forested areas, destroyed city blocks, and narrow passages have provided advantageous positions for Ukrainian forces. Ukrainian snipers have not only been used to neutralize the enemy, but also to wage psychological warfare. Russian soldiers, fearful of sniper threats, have found it difficult to move, causing delays in logistics and lowering morale. This has made Ukraine's defense more effective and slowed Russian advances. March 3, 2025. The 255th Assault Battalion continues its intense operations to clear Russian positions in the Donetsk region. Ukrainian forces are going beyond traditional warfare tactics, using creative and unconventional methods. In one recent confrontation with ammunition running low, Ukrainian soldiers resorted to an unusual weapon, beehives. After running out of hand grenades, Ukrainian soldiers threw beehives into Russian positions, causing panic among the Russian troops. Amid the harshness of war, this event once again proved how creative and adaptive Ukrainian forces are. Such events show that war is won not only with heavy weaponry, but also with intelligence and improvisation. The Ukrainian army continues to fight by quickly adapting to battlefield conditions, countering Russia's vast resources and superior firepower. The 255th Assault Battalion's extraordinary move highlights the unpredictability of war and how things can change in an instant on the front lines. March 3, 2025. The Strix unit of the 47th Mechanized Brigade engages in a fierce battle with Russian forces near Kruglenka in the Kursk region. While the invading forces attempt to enter the region with armored vehicles, Ukrainian forces do not allow them to advance. Ukrainian artillery and drone operators strike as soon as the Russian armored vehicles are detected, launching a heavy barrage of fire on the area. At first, the Russian armored vehicles are able to withstand the attacks, but they cannot resist Ukraine's relentless bombardment for long. With intense firepower and precise strikes, the enemy vehicles are targeted one by one, destroyed in explosions. Russian forces attempting to advance on the ground are left vulnerable without armored support. In the end, all Russian armored units are eliminated and reduced to scrap. Ukraine's tactical superiority and effective intervention on the battlefield once again force Russian forces to retreat, suffering heavy losses. March 4, 2025. In the following images, Ukrainian forces identify a soldier lying on the ground with his hands bound. Upon closer inspection, it becomes apparent that this is an African mercenary. In the Russia-Ukraine war, Russian forces are supported not only by their own professional army, but also by mercenary groups. This is an attempt by Russia to address its deficiencies and resource shortages on the battlefield. Ukraine recognizes that these mercenary groups pose a significant threat, but they also reveal Russia's weaknesses in the field. One of the most notable mercenary groups was the Wagner Group. Since the beginning of the war, especially in critical areas like Bakhmut, which saw intense fighting, the group became one of Russia's most important allies. However, after the death of Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin, the group had to disband significantly, which exemplified the chaos Russia faced on the battlefield. The Ukrainian army succeeded in targeting groups like Wagner, weakening their logistical lines and morale. Russia's strategy of using mercenaries not only put a strain on its own human resources, but also reinforced Ukraine's strategic superiority. With military support from the West, Ukraine fought a strong and effective battle against these groups, largely thwarting Russia's tactic of fighting with mercenaries. March 4, 2025. Ukrainian forces initiate a drone operation after identifying a shelter in the Kremina forest of the Luhansk region, where Russian invaders are hiding. The drone is directed to the shelter's location and is on its way to the target. However, as it approaches the shelter, the Ukrainian drone encounters an important device that catches its attention: a Starlink terminal. The drone, focusing on the target, destroys both the shelter and the terminal upon arrival. The use of Starlink terminals by the Russian army raises significant questions. Starlink, developed by Elon Musk's SpaceX company, is a satellite internet system typically used to enhance the communication infrastructure of the Ukrainian army. However, recent reports suggest that Russia has somehow gained access to Starlink terminals. There are several possible explanations for this. First, since Starlink is a commercially available product, Russian forces might have obtained the terminals through third parties or the black market. Although the use of Starlink is limited in certain regions, Russia could have gained access to Starlink in the areas it occupies in Ukraine or through other countries. Another possibility is that Russia has acquired Starlink terminals among the Ukrainian military equipment it captured. Ukraine has actively used Starlink since the beginning of the war, and this system has been one of Ukraine's greatest advantages on the battlefield. Russian forces may be attempting to integrate this technology into their own communication infrastructure by using terminals they captured from Ukrainian forces. Ukrainian forces and intelligence agencies continue to investigate how and where Russia is obtaining these systems. If Russia is indeed using Starlink, Ukraine and its allies may take various measures to prevent this. March 1, 2025. The Hills Hunters of the 59th Armored Brigade are carefully monitoring the movements of Russian invaders in the Donetsk region. During reconnaissance activities on the field, Ukrainian forces detect Russian infantry and spring into action. In the footage, a Russian soldier is seen lying motionless on the ground, The tracks on the road suggest that a comrade attempted to drag him but was unsuccessful. This is a clear indication of the chaos on the battlefield and the desperation within the Russian forces. After quickly assessing the situation, the Ukrainian forces launch an attack. A reconnaissance drone swiftly locates the position and carries out a precision strike, hitting the target with pinpoint accuracy. Following the explosion, 2 more Russian infantrymen are neutralized, and other enemy elements in the area are hunted down one by Ukrainian forces. The advanced drone technology and effective operational strategies of the Ukrainian army make it nearly impossible for Russian forces to move safely. Then, a striking scene captured on camera draws attention. A Russian soldier, exhausted and weary, is lying on the ground. Despite having noticed the presence of the drone, he remains unresponsive, likely due to the mental collapse and physical injuries caused by the war, indicating that he no longer has the strength to continue fighting. After observing the enemy for some time, the Ukrainian operator makes the final move, launching an attack that ends the life of the Russian infantryman. This incident once again demonstrates the brutal nature of war. The Ukrainian army continues to maintain control on the front lines with advanced tactics and technological superiority, while the Russian forces increasingly feel the toll of their losses, both psychologically and physically. February 27, 2025. Russian forces are attempting to move with various vehicles on the battlefield, but due to intense fighting on the front lines, even armored vehicles cannot provide full security. In particular, the advanced reconnaissance systems and precision strike capabilities of the Ukrainian army severely limit the freedom of movement for Russian forces. In these images, Russian soldiers are seen trying to advance through a dangerous area with an unprotected vehicle. Although they likely aim to pass through the region quickly and without drawing attention, they are immediately detected due to the advanced unmanned aerial vehicles and intelligence systems of the Ukrainian forces. The Ukrainian troops take advantage of this vulnerable moment by launching an immediate attack. After the attack, the intensity of the explosion completely destroys the vehicle, and the personnel inside are killed before they have a chance to escape. This incident once again highlights how moving recklessly or with inadequate protection on the battlefield can have deadly consequences. While the Ukrainian army continues to halt the advance of Russian forces with their quick response and precise attacks, the Russian military is increasingly feeling the weight of its losses on the field.